Hello and welcome to Ask the Doctor, Ask the Primal Doctor, specifically Dr. Shan Hussain. Thank you for joining us, Shan.
Good to see you.
Yeah, pleasure as always. You're looking forward to this one, aren't you, in particular? Because it's always nice to, it's almost like a I suppose like a day in your GP surgery, isn't it?
It's like a medical school viva. You're kind of put on the spot. You've got to answer the questions, and he
has 2 seconds to think about a response. That's it. He has to go. But no, Ask the Doctor is it's your opportunity. You guys watching at home, you get the opportunity to have some of your questions answered by this man here or one of our primal doctors. If not Dr. Shan, then Dr. Dan, who's also on the screen behind us. He's a different doctor each week. You see what we did there. So you can obviously leave your questions online. Just simply go to Ask the Doctor, scroll down the Primal Cure webpage, and at the bottom you'll see a link to Ask the Doctor, and via that link you'll be directed to a form. And on the form, there you go. So scroll down the front page. You see recipes, blogs, a link to the YouTube page at the bottom. Ask the Doctor. Go to Ask the Doctor, and you'll have a little bit of a bio here about this Dr. Dan Maggs, and oh, there he is, the man himself, Dr. Shan Hussain. It's a fantastic photo of you, by the way, Shan. Thank you. Yeah, fantastic. There you go. It's a bit of his bio, and at the bottom here, you can obviously agree to the disclaimer. This is not, a substitute for going to your GP. It's not a substitute from getting, advice from your primary care nurse. This is purely inquisitive questions relative to health that Shan may be able to advise you on, but give his opinion on. Mm-hmm. That's fair, isn't it?
That's fair, yeah.
So let's get cracking with the questions. We've got a list of questions here, and we'll start with Derek from Swansea, who said, how can I gain weight in a safe way? That's a really good question. How can you gain weight in a safe way?
That is a good question. Everyone seems to be talking about weight loss all the time, but we don't talk about weight gain, and actually, being underweight is actually can be quite a concern. So it's a very broad question there, Derek. So what we want to look at is why you might be underweight, or where you are with your weight and where you hope to be, what sort of problems you might be experiencing. There can be a tremendous number of reasons, and it can range from anything from emotional to your body not necessarily absorbing the correct nutrients for whatever reason, if there's an imbalance within your gastrointestinal flora, or if your appetite is not good, or if there are any sort of emotional factors involved. So I think I can't really give you a one-size-fits-all answer there. I think what's important there is to look at your health a bit more broadly and determine why you would want to gain weight and where you are and where you ideally want to be.
It's important, isn't it, that when it comes to losing weight, I think that people have to have a target. Is that fair? Do you think it's important to have a target weight they want to be, or do you think that's unhealthy actually to have a target weight to aim for?
I think it's important to obviously for any goal you've got to know what your outcome is and have it defined. So having that target weight is okay so long as it's a healthy weight, so long as it's keeping you in a healthy body mass index range.
Sure. I think it's important. It's a good point you make there actually. I think from my personal experience, in sport as an athlete, I've had to cut weight and get down to, quite a, you said yourself to me earlier, it was quite a compliment actually, says I'm quite lean. Talk about how we feel the cold. And, I have to get my weight down. And sometimes, in sport, boxing in particular, but any fighting sport, obviously mine's karate, so martial arts, you have to do some drastic things to get your body weight down, and that's dangerous, isn't it, when you go to like water depletion and all these things? Yes,
it can be dangerous. I do hear rather frightening stories about some of the things that particularly some performance athletes when it comes to, I believe it's known as cutting.
That's right.
When we're trying to really sort of get that really defined physique for the appearance that you see in various bodybuilding contests, and they actually rely unfortunately on diuretics, things like frusemide, which actually make us dehydrated. We pass more water away just to give that definition. Not a particularly healthy thing to do, and certainly not something I recommend.
I think something that's important to actually note is that water weighs a lot. I mean, the human body is largely water. I can't remember the exact percentage, but largely water. People think, I want to lose weight, and they don't drink water because maybe they don't want to weigh heavy on the scales. My advice, and if you disagree, please tell me from a medical perspective, I'd say don't look at the scales very often. Don't weigh yourself every day. Certainly not more than, if you weigh yourself twice, you're probably going to set yourself up for a fall. Because at the end of the day, losing weight is psychological, and if you want to lose weight, then psychologically already you feel like you need to make a change. You're obviously in a position whereby you feel like you want something about yourself to be different. The last thing I think people should be doing is weighing themselves every day. If you weigh yourself in the morning, obviously you're going to be lighter because you've not eaten for ages, you've slept. And but if at the end of the day you may have had a meal or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on who you are, and obviously you're going to be heavier. And if you weigh yourself every day, though, weight might not change from Monday to Tuesday, but it might change drastically from Monday to Friday. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair to say. I think, and you're absolutely right in terms of the water weight that we carry, and it's important that people who want to lose weight. It's not weight they want to lose as much as fat. So, why not measure fat rather than your overall weight?
Absolutely.
Bearing in mind that the same size of muscle actually weighs heavier in terms of density than it does fat. So, we've got to be clearly defined in terms of what we're wearing. Do the scales that you use, do they measure body fat percentage? And perhaps that's the number to track rather than looking at your overall weight. But I think the question was about weight gain.
It was about
weight loss.
Was how can I gain weight? And you're actually quite right. Sorry, we're talking about how can I gain weight in a safe way. Again, that's down to diet, isn't it? Though it's down to diet.
It is down to diet largely. It's also down to obviously how we're feeling as well. But I think looking at the actual question, obviously that's coming from. I'd want to know the context from the individual. Why do you want to gain weight? Where is your weight now? How underweight are you? And how much do you want to weigh? If you're already overweight and you want to gain weight, that would be an unusual conversation to be having. But it's difficult to give a broad answer.
No, so if you, for example, I'm assuming, I don't know Derek obviously, but I'm assuming maybe this question has come from, perhaps a young man that wants to put on weight, perhaps he wants to just gain a bit of muscle size, for example. What would you recommend he does? Obviously, aside from going to the gym, but what sort of food should he be eating?
So obviously, we've been talking for years
hypothetically speaking, obviously,
about protein and the importance of that is. We used to talk a lot about high carb and low fat when it came to bodybuilding, and that's not quite where things are at the moment. In fact, it's quite the opposite, in fact. But don't ever forget vitamins and minerals, and it's probably important to take more than the actual recommended daily allowance in terms of what's happening to your body at a constitutional level. It's important to, we talked a lot about the importance of vitamin C post-workout and what that can do. So yes, making sure that you're getting good balance of all of that.
And Steve obviously talks in great depth in the Primal Cure. Here it is, the Primal Cure. Free with your next order from Primal Cure. Subscribe and save as well. Talks a lot about diet and the importance of diet, eating the right kind of foods. And eating, organically and making sure you get the right minerals and vitamins. So, it's safe to say, from an informative point of view, reading the Primal Cure is a good way to start. Derek, is that about fair?
Yep, I think that's fair. I'm greatly admire this book, and I believe all profits made from this book do go to charity.
They do indeed.
So wonderful.
It's a very, very powerful point to point out. Next question. This is from Patricia in Inverness, who says. How long are you infectious for with a viral infection? This is interesting.
Okay, yes, it is interesting because there's different types of virus and there's different ways that they're transmitted, there's different ways of share. So I'm guessing, and I could be wrong, that Patricia is referring to a cough or cold virus, which is spread by the respiratory droplets that come from obviously coughing and sneezing and potentially contaminating from our hands. And it can be transmitted in that way. So in terms of how long someone is potentially infectious or virulent from that, it depends on how long the symptoms last for. Usually I would recommend after the cough and cold and the coughing and sneezing has all subsided, but even then probably a good sort of 24 hours being free from symptoms, and then they would most likely be regarded no longer as infectious. But like I say, it's variable, it's different, it's a difficult question to answer with 100% certainty.
Does that depend also on the type of infection? Are some infections like are they more susceptible for longer with some rather than others? Does that?
In terms of coughs and colds?
Yeah, well, generally. So, for example, are some infections, are you more, as she says, are you more prone to give the infection to somebody else for, let's say, a period of 5 days with some or a period of 2 with another, or does it depend on the individual?
I guess so, yes. I think also with the individual that could potentially be, it could be transmitted to, and what their overall constitution is like, what their immunity level is like as well. And, it's going to be less likely that someone who already has a strong constitution and good immune levels is going to succumb to that kind of cough and cold.
So in relation to somebody who has, an infection or something, what can people do to, let's assume it's a cough or cold, what can they assume to, what efforts can they make to ensure they don't pass it on to other people?
Okay, so obviously you don't want to be in the presence of other people coughing and splushing all over them. That's the common sense stuff.
Yeah.
And it's important to sort of, make sure that you're doing what you can to look after yourself, getting the rest you need, keeping yourself well hydrated, eating healthily, good quality nutrients, and just relaxing and de-stressing. That's really what the body needs at that time to get better. What does trouble me is when people who have coughs and colds and clearly shouldn't be at work force themselves to go, not only risking their professional performance but also putting other team members at risk as well. So it's not uncommon for me to say to a patient who has such a condition, I think straight back to bed for you.
I'm not always so generous actually.
Yes.
But I think it's interesting, isn't it? You just talked about creating the stress element is very important, isn't
Massive,
it?
yeah.
And when you are ill, it's important. Obviously, people probably wouldn't think about this, but keeping their psychological, well-being or focusing on that aspect when they're ill, is actually very important when it comes to actually getting better. Safe to say?
Hugely, yeah. I think when we're stressed and overwhelmed, it's logically we're going to be a bit run down. We're going to be more susceptible to illness. It's important that we do what we can to every day to manage our stress and release any stress that the day can potentially bring in.
Sure. Right. Third question. Here we are. What are I'm really interested to talk about this, and
Okay.
could take up the whole show with this, or we're talking about the topic. But the actual question is, what are the symptoms of anxiety disorder? That's from Louisa in Llandudno.
Okay, wonderful. So anxiety disorder, that is actually an umbrella term for many different conditions that can be characterised with the feelings that we have and we associate with anxiety, whether it's fears, worries, concerns, expectations, to the point where it's actually having a debilitating effect on our day-to-day living. And it can also manifest in a very physical way. Blood pressure can go up, heart rate can go up. We can start to feel sometimes a bit of a shake, a bit of a tremor, sometimes
hair loss from stress and anxiety disorders.
Absolutely, yeah, it can do.
Wow.
It can do. And butterflies in your stomach, that's another sort of feeling. People start to get, some people can feel quite sick, quite nauseous as a result. So yes, there are many different facets to it, and it's a very, very prevalent condition. 1 in 5 people experience anxiety.
20% of people, so 20% of the population.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so anxiety, like you say, is there's a range of different anxiety disorder. Is not one thing. There's a range of different types.
Different types, but the treatment really is looking at what's happening at an environmental level in terms of how they're feeling, and looking at what can be done in terms of counselling or therapy or support, interventions, and in certain cases, appropriate medication professionally prescribed by a doctor. But I think.
Is lifestyle medication the first sort of step you think to addressing anxiety disorder?
It's very different with individuals. I've met people who are extremely anxious, and I can't tell them. Obviously, it doesn't make sense.
You can't just tell someone not to be anxious. Yes, of course.
You just need to go and chill out. Of course, that's not going to be a practical thing to say, and it's not constructive. What we've got to look at is firstly get a deeper understanding and make sure that we're getting a good awareness of what the individual is going through and really sort of connect, and then find the best ways and create a bespoke way to help them.
Well, it's really important actually, isn't it, to point out, you made a really good point that you can't just tell someone not to be anxious. By the same token, you can't just tell someone not to have a cold. And it's an important point you make there, Shannon, that I think now anxiety disorders, or mental illness in general, because anxiety disorder is a form of mental illness, as a whole is becoming more socially talked about and more socially, I wouldn't say more accepted as an illness, if you like. And it isn't something you just magic away, is it?
You're absolutely right, and that's a very good way that you put it. You can't just tell someone to not have a cold or to not be anxious. This is something that is potentially very serious and needs greater understanding, empathy and awareness, and most importantly support, and encouraging people to take the support available to them and
talk to someone.
Talk to someone, yes. There's no shame in having anxiety. It's just as the same in my books. There's no shame as having any other illness, such as a cold.
Yeah.
It's about someone who is not well, who wants to be well, and is seeking treatment.
Sure. It's a shame, isn't it, when people aren't, don't feel like, I don't know, socially accepted to perhaps, come to the GP and say that, ask for help, essentially. Is that frustrating from your perspective? Do you obviously, you encourage people to come and talk to you if they have an anxiety disorder in the same way they come and talk to you if they've got an infectious disease?
No, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I think it's essential. I think both situations warrant our attention, and I'd be absolutely shocked if I was to discover that a GP out there would be dismissing a condition as serious as anxiety.
And are people? I'm just interested actually. Are people who, if they suffer from an anxiety disorder, and they come to you, are they very? Is it easy to prescribe, lifestyle medication, if you like? Is it something, is it always a challenge? Does it depend on the individual?
It's got to be the right approach for the right person, and like I say, it's very individualised. There are some people that can literally walk in and they sit down, they're smiling, they're happy, and they'll talk to you eye to eye, face to face, and they'll say, "Doctor, I'm so anxious, you wouldn't believe it." And
you wouldn't know, would you?
You wouldn't believe it, no. But at the same time, I had a patient come in once, really, really angry and annoyed about her anxiety, and she'd seen her psychiatrist, who had told her to switch off her phone and go out for a walk in the woods.
Right.
Which is really good advice.
Yeah.
But you've got to present it in the right way. Yeah. And she was like, how is that supposed to help me? And so I need to build a context around that, and help them understand what's going on, and look at what can be done at a lifestyle level, at a personal level, that will actually help with a lot of anxiety. And there are many different things that are scientifically proven to help, but they are not the be all and end all. They are not the answer.
No.
The answer is going to be very specific to an individual.
Sure. And
different people will respond in different ways.
It's bespoke care, isn't it, I suppose?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't you wish this man was your doctor? I think it's something that we talk about a lot at Primal Cure, and mental illness, and the stat that's on the front cover of the Primal Cure, actually 25% of people suffer with mental illness, or are known to suffer with mental illness. Maybe many more people out there. In fact, a friend of mine who's a doctor like yourself says that everybody at some stage will suffer from mental illness. Everybody has a cold at some stage. By the same token, he believes that everybody will suffer with a mental illness, however big or small that may be, at some stage in their life. And that's something that's perhaps not widely accepted yet, is it? I mean, it's becoming, obviously, more socially talked about. There's still a certain degree of stigma attached, isn't there, to mental illness in particular?
I think there is, and I think it's a lot less than it used to be, which is something I'm very happy and encouraged to see.
You've been a practicing GP for 18 years now, is that right?
Doctor for 18 years, GP for 11 years.
So in 11 years, or since you've been practicing as a doctor, have you seen an increase in the number of people that will come and talk to you about mental illness?
Yes, very much so, without a doubt.
And do you think that's because there's an increase of it, or do you think that's because people are just more readily willing to talk about it?
Probably a bit of both, but I think more the second one, that people feel that they're able to talk about it and they won't be judged. And this is the one thing that I feel is the greatest boundary between someone actually speaking up about it.
Yes.
Is that they don't want to be judged.
No.
And it's really important to help people understand that we're not here to judge you, we're here to help you. And we can do that in a non-judgmental way, just by listening. And the first step to that is getting an understanding of what you're going through, because how you're feeling at this moment in time is exactly how you're supposed to be feeling. Okay,
it's not your fault. It's not their fault.
Good. It's not bad. It's no one's fault. It's just that's how things are. And the question is, where do we want to go from here? So let's start in that sort of non-judgmental context, and start working together with the initial conversation, and talk about ways that we can help, and ways that the patient can engage.
And is there always a trigger as such? Is there always a cause of it, or is it just something that can just manifest for no particular reason?
I think they're the trickier cases, when people have anxiety and we're unable to pinpoint the cause or the potential trigger. I personally think there's always something.
Okay.
But finding that something is something a bit
And that's
a bit
something.
trickier.
Am I right in saying that something doesn't necessarily have to have happened in the present? It could be something
Absolutely.
from a long time ago.
Yeah, it could be something from many years ago. And just to be clear, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychotherapist. I work at this from a generalist point of view, which is where many mental health conditions are actually managed. And they're, even sometimes with in-depth psychiatry, psychotherapy, and counselling, sometimes we still don't find that trigger. But what we need to do is look at how we can help and what support is available to them.
It's interesting, actually. I think it's good, isn't it, that people are more willing to talk about it. But then at the same time, there's a bit of a juxtaposition, actually, I think, in the sense that now the modern world in which we live, social media is responsible for a lot of good, but I think it's also responsible for a lot of bad as well. And there's a lot of social media for the reason, as a result of social media, you might be more aware of anxiety disorders, you might be more aware of things like depression, you might be more willing to talk about it. But by the same token, there's an argument that certain aspects of social media are harmful to our mental health as well, isn't there?
Yes, I think what's important with social media is realising that it doesn't always tell the whole story. And I heard a phrase the other day, I can't remember the person who said it, was don't compare someone else's showreel to your
current life,
backstage, behind the scenes life. Things can look amazing on Facebook. Someone who's getting so much success with different plaudits and awards and everything, and it just looks fantastic. Got no idea what's happening behind the scenes.
It's like a trailer that you see when you go to watch a movie. Have you ever been to see a film and been really disappointed because the trailer looked absolutely incredible and the movie itself's rubbish because they put all the best bits in the trailer? Yeah,
I've seen a few of those.
Social media is a little bit like that.
It is, yes. And one of the things that my approach is that for everything that goes well in my life, there's probably 5 or 6 things, maybe more, that don't go so well. But I don't really want to go on social media and bring people down about that stuff. I'd rather talk about the good stuff in the hope that it's sharing and might well inspire other people to do stuff. So that's my approach. But I think on the flip side, it doesn't always tell the whole story. So I think social media it's not good or it's not bad. It's a tool. We can use it for good or bad, and I think that's the important thing to remember. Fascinating.
I think you'll agree. Louisa, you opened up a fantastic a very interesting can of worms there. It's a topic we could talk about at great length. I'm sure we might be interested. We might be interested. We actually think perhaps we should get Shannon and do an anxiety-based show actually, and talk about it in greater depth. Perhaps or something we can do at a later date. Next question. I'm 56. And have suffered with insomnia for a number of years now. Insomnia, of course, being a sleep disorder, so people don't sleep very well. I don't smoke, drink alcohol, or eat late of evening. What else could I be doing to beat it and get to sleep? That's from Boris in Glossop.
Okay, Boris. Well, we touched on this a moment ago, didn't we, about ways that we can help get that regular, refreshing nightly sleep. So starting with that sort of evening routine to gradually wind ourselves down. We've had a busy day at work or a busy weekend, whatever we've been doing. It's important that we don't go to bed with a busy mind that's going to be running at 100 miles an hour. So gradually winding down in the evening, switching off all technology. We had a little joke about that earlier because James emails me at 10 o'clock at night and sometimes I reply at 11.
I'm not very good at switching off. I'm a bit of a workaholic,
So gradually winding down and de-stressing, relaxing, releasing a lot of the nonsense that we might have been through in that day. And then remembering that when we do go to sleep, we're not just talking about physical rest, we're talking about mental rest, we're talking about emotional rest. We're not going to fall asleep if our brains are going 100 miles an hour. No. Particularly if we're worrying or stressing about things that have happened during the day or stuff that we've got to do the next day. It's not going to happen. So it's kind of like you can't fall asleep if you've got one arm out your bed doing dumbbell curls, but that's what you're doing if you've got an overactive mind. You're basically doing reps with your brain.
That is a fantastic analogy. It really is. It's a fantastic analogy.
So just quieten down the mind, switch it off, relax, empty the brain. Just release all that junk that's just cluttering your mind and feel calm.
Talk to me about in terms of feeling calm and meditation. And you obviously know you're a big believer in meditation and meditative aspects to help. What can people do? Define meditation, and how can it benefit somebody?
Wow. How long have we got?
Can of worms.
I'm a huge fan of meditation. I really am. I studied transcendental meditation in 2011 and changed my life. Just helped me feel much more calm and relaxed in terms of where I was. And what I found was that it helped me live more sort of in the moment rather than, all over the place here and there with, different things going through my mind all at once and just causing a lot of stress and overwhelm. It just helped me to sort of calm down a lot of that thinking. In terms of what it is, it's just basically just being seated or lay down, whatever you prefer, and just noticing, gently closing your eyes and just being in the moment, being present, just noticing what comes up and what goes away. I'm not going to manage to do it justice in terms of the time we have for today's conversation, but I'd highly recommend, if people are interested, to look at tm.org, which is the non-profit organisation for transcendental meditation. Okay. And chances are you'll find a local practitioner who'd be happy to teach you, and it's surprisingly affordable. So it's something that's proven. Like I say, it's a tool. It's not the answer to everything, but there are studies that show that it's proven to help with so many conditions, including anxiety, stress, overwhelm, depression, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, weight loss. I could go on. There's scientific evidence.
And insomnia in particular.
And insomnia and avoiding flu, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. It all relates to that mindfulness we were talking about earlier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And anything basically that creates a healthy environment for yourself. So, I had to do this for years. So, as an athlete, I used to train probably 3 times a day at one point, and then you go to bed. I'd probably get 6 to 7 hours sleep, so not enough considering the training I was doing. But that's just the way the timetable worked, because I knew I'd get 2 hours to 3 hours sleep in the middle of the day. Now, sleeping in the middle of the day, no matter how tired you are, can be quite difficult, I find. Sometimes I feel tired, and when I actually want sleep, I can't, So it's about creating the right environment. So I had blackout blinds at home, create a really comfortable environment, no noise whatsoever, and create that that comfortable environment. And some people, like my mum, likes to listen to whale music and stuff like that. So everyone has their own way of relaxing, and these things all help, don't they? To creating the right sleep environment is crucial as well.
I think creating the right environment, full stop, is the most supportive environment that will allow your health to nurture. Yep. Now, that's not always perfectly 100% practical, but it's about looking at areas that we can improve on, in terms of our environment. Just the smallest things can sometimes make the biggest difference.
They can. There's little things we do here at Primal Cure, obviously, if you're interested in, if you do struggle to sleep, obviously our Sleep Naturally tablets, like I say, not designed to put you to sleep, but perhaps maybe enhance your sleep with quality vitamins and minerals. You can buy air humidifiers online as well. You can obviously French lavender oil, all these things create a nice relaxing sense that maybe might help you sleep. Who knows? Trial and error.
There's also something I want to add, actually, which is a gentleman called Dr. Andrew Weil, who I wrote about in my book. He's written many books himself. He talks about an exercise called the 4-7-8 breathing exercise.
Okay.
That can help you get off to sleep in just a few minutes. So if you're interested in looking into that, just type into YouTube 4-7-8 breathing, and you'll find a very interesting video.
So the 4-7-8 breathing exercise, Boris, if you're interested in
give that a go.
Getting to sleep.
It's very powerful, and it can help you get off to sleep.
Yeah. But the crucial thing is he's doing the things right. He's not smoking, he's not drinking, and he's not eating really, really late at night. Good. So, those things are all good. You just need to create the right environment.
I'm assuming he's not going to the gym late at night either, so
I'm assuming.
Check that.
Yeah.
But yes, evening activities can make a big difference as well.
So why perhaps going to the gym late at night? Would that not tire yourself out and fall and be tired, or why would that be detrimental?
It's because it stimulates you. It can be very sort of stimulative. I mean, immediately post workout, I feel tired, but I can't fall asleep. I'm not sure about yourself.
No, I can't. I don't train late at night. Yeah, but I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
But even if you trained in the morning, as tired as you feel afterwards, it's not the kind of
sometimes.
it's not the kind of tiredness that you could immediately fall asleep after.
Yeah.
So it's important to know that what we're doing.
Physical tiredness and psychological tiredness, two different things.
At a hormonal level, what's happening to our bodies while we're working out, and that's not really going to be conducive towards sleep.
Absolutely. Okay, fantastic question. Thanks for that, Boris. Next question. This is from Alf in Barnsley. How much sugar is good for me? Great question. How much sugar is good for me, Shan?
Gosh, right. Okay. So, how can we put this? We're talking about sugar. We're talking about.
Well, it's very broad. He's talked about sugar. So let's talk. Actually, it's a very broad question.
Mm-hmm.
So for people at home, let's talk about the different types of sugar and where you might find them, for example.
Okay, so if we're talking about refined sugar or processed sugar, I know there's a question later on about brown sugar.
Yeah.
I would say the answer to that is none.
So let's relate both of these questions. So how much sugar is good for me? That's from Alf in Barnsley. And then right at the bottom of the list, I've got a question from Nina in Nuneaton who says, is brown sugar better than white sugar? So we'll just, so as you just said.
Depends who you believe. There are some people who would make the case that brown sugar is better. I haven't seen any convincing evidence either way. I'm not a particular fan of a Primal Cure, no, and I'm inclined to agree. But in terms of how much sugar is good for us, well, like I say, that refined processed sugar, that's not going to be good for us at all. We talked about this with Steve the other week about how those calories are not particularly helpful in terms of what we need to support and sustain ourselves.
Sure.
So I'm not really a big fan of the quantifying and of calories and nutrients. I'm more interested in the quality of the nutrients we're getting from our diets, from the vegetables, the fruits, the salads, beans, and meat and fish if that's what you choose to eat. So that is a much better way of looking at what we're eating in terms of our diet. And what's interesting is if we actually add up how much sugar is in there, it's not the kind of, it doesn't have the same sort of poisonous or damaging effect that the refined sugar does.
No, you're right.
Even though we can actually potentially match them like for like, because they're coming in with so many other nutrients and the fibre that we're taking in, that it's helping to support our insulin levels and not give us big sugar spikes that can lead to obesity, then it's putting us in a much healthier state.
It's interesting, really interesting actually, in that basically what Shan just said quite rightly, refined sugar, just knock it out. Keep it out of your diet. It's not good for you. We don't need it. It's essentially man-made. It's not going to do you any favours. Why would you want something that's not natural, that's not organic, that's not primal? There's the short answer. So no, in answer to Nina's question, it was Nina, is brown sugar better than white sugar? We say no. What sugars are good for you? Well, depending on how but essentially sugar only has one use, and that's the energy, essentially. So unless you're burning it off, you're getting nothing out of it. If even your starchy carbohydrates eventually break down into sugars, unless you're exercising to burn them off, you're just going to put on weight. So really it's about managing your diet accordingly, isn't it? Great question. Obviously anything related to living a low carb diet and read the Primal Cure, it's all in there. The benefits of eating a high protein diet. Fats are not bad for you. That's the key thing, unless they're of course trans fats, which are man-made and awful. Next question, this is a good one. Should I go gluten-free? That's from Sharon in Mansfield.
Great question. I'd like to ask why she would be considering going gluten-free, but I'm a person who generally recommends trying it out, see how you feel.
Just for people who don't know, and myself actually as well, perhaps, what is gluten, and what foods is it found?
Gluten is found in anything that's flour-based,
right.
So wheat, and what it can do is it can lead, or the condition that it's most associated with is celiac disease, which is when
It's an
small
autoimmune
intestine,
disease, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah.
and get a very serious and severe reaction to it that can actually sometimes be life-threatening.
Is that where the intestine? Is it where it celiac disease? Is that an inflammation of,
Yes.
of the bowel?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes, it's autoimmune, but that's very different to gluten sensitivity or gluten intolerance, for which there is no actual test.
Wow.
So, in terms of determining if you might be gluten sensitive or gluten intolerant, try coming off gluten for a number of weeks and see how you feel.
What are the symptoms of perhaps if you are gluten intolerant? Intolerant, sorry. What are, because obviously I'm assuming if she says should I go gluten free, perhaps Sharon thinks that she's got some symptoms. What are those symptoms? What might she be seeing if she is intolerant?
Lots of different ones that potentially can happen. It can be anything from skin eruptions to
so like a rash,
a rash, or to bloating, to flatulence, to stomach cramps.
IBS is a big one, isn't it, for some people?
IBS, yeah, but IBS is a separate condition.
Right,
there may
okay.
well be some overlap, but that's thought to be more of a sort of diagnosis of exclusion, meaning we kind of eliminate everything else that it could be.
Yes.
And there is now thought to be some emotional benefit, emotional triggers behind IBS. But coming back to the gluten-free question,
Yes.
my short answer would be, how are you feeling right now? Try going gluten-free for a number of weeks. I would say anything from a minimum to ideally 6 weeks.
Well,
See
okay.
how you feel afterwards. See how you feel. See how your body responds when you're not putting this in your body, and then determine if you feel it's right for you. And there will be some people that don't feel any different, but there will be some that it can really be life-changing.
It's interesting. I think again it depends on our own personal, individual tolerance to these things, isn't it? Really. I think also it depends on age as well. I don't know. Perhaps maybe actually it's a good question to ask you. Is as we are younger, whether we're late teenagers or early 20s, are we potentially are our bodies more robust? Are we less susceptible to these things? Is our constitution, as you put it earlier, stronger than it is as we get older, or is that not the case at all?
Yes, but we shouldn't take it for granted. I don't need to tell you that, but I think it's important to get into good habits for diet and lifestyle, and keep those habits.
It's interesting because the reason I ask is I myself growing up I would drink dairy, I would eat dairy, I would now the only dairy I really consume is eggs, that's it. I would eat a lot of flour, a lot of wheat-based foods, and got on okay. As I got into my early 20s, it sort of I don't know, for one reason or another, I'm not somebody who has jumped on the the gluten-free bandwagon or the dairy-free bandwagon or anything else. Pretty much just like you said, I've basically through living primally and always believing in a primal diet, I just didn't think, I thought maybe I'd cut out my dairy, cut out my flour from a principal reason. But also because I started to feel that it was maybe affecting me a little bit more. And as I did cut it out, I don't have any of those symptoms you talked about earlier. My gut feels a lot more, a lot better. I don't get bloated like I used to. My big sort of guilty pleasure, if you like, is and was ice cream. I used to love eating ice cream, so every Sunday, a hard week's training, I would, probably get a tub or two of ice cream, and but it would always, even now, I notice if I eat ice cream, it goes straight through me. So I don't know if that's because I've become less resistant to dairy because I don't eat it very often now. Is that also perhaps the case? If you cut it out and then you start taking something in your body's not used to, is that going to have an impact on you?
Yeah, I can certainly envisage that. Yeah, clearly you're noticing it yourself as well.
That's my own personal experience. That's just sort of what I found. So perhaps Sharon, if you experience any of those symptoms, then as Dr. Shan says, you should try it.
I think what I'd point out is you're not going to come to any harm by going gluten-free.
Absolutely.
So why don't you try it and maybe get back to us.
Yeah,
Let us know
that's a
how
good
you
point. Really good point. This is one I'm interested in, and I may go off on a tangent here. Is microwaved food unsafe or safe?
Unsafe. Who's that question?
Sorry, this is from Shaniqua in Gloucestershire. So, is microwaved food unsafe?
Okay, great question. So Unsafe. Well, how are we defining unsafe? What we can look at is when we're preparing food, we want to make sure that we're not damaging or denaturing the nutrients that we want to take in. So, obviously, if we're going to fry something, it's going to be more harmful. It's going to be less beneficial than if, say, for example, we steam it. So steaming vegetables is the best way to preserve the nutrients there rather than boiling it or frying it. And microwaving is, further down in terms of what it does. It will, reduce the actual.
Whereas in a microwave it uses gamma rays, is that right? So it's basically a form of just mild radiation that heats food, is that right?
I'm not sure it was gamma rays, but yes, it is a form of mild radiation. It's not something I'm a particular fan of personally. I think I'm a bit more traditional when it comes to cooking and the old stove and looking at healthy ways that we can prepare our food. So I would avoid microwaving food, and I'd certainly avoid microwavable foods.
I think microwavable foods, as you put them, ready meals and such like are, well, they're awful, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they tend to be rich in trans fats and sugars and.
But here's the thing: they are convenient for people. I mean, when I was working in hospital medicine for 7 years. Oh God, yeah. That's what we had. There was no other choice. It was either that or going to the vending machine and getting something equally unhealthy, probably more unhealthy.
So you think? I mean, even in offices up and down the country, there are microwaves. There's not a full-blown kitchen. There needs to be the healthy alternatives are out there, and you think that businesses, companies need to do more to get rid of a microwave and perhaps provide some sort of healthy substitute or make it feasible and more available for people to cook or make healthy food, whether in work.
Yeah, I think I was in an organisation in London a few weeks ago visiting, and one of the things I noticed around all the offices and everywhere around the entire building was not only did they have so many plants everywhere, but there were bowls of fruit. Yeah. On every single meeting table, and they had a chef who was actually freshly preparing fruit and slicing it, all for the team to eat. And they must have had 200 employees there, and it was wonderful. So firstly, you're in a very sort of beautiful, energized environment where you've got so many plants around you, and secondly, everyone's eating healthily, and it just showed up in terms of how they were performing and what they were doing.
You see a big sort of it was pretty obvious that they're all happy in their workplace as well.
Yes, you could tell that there was a good atmosphere. They were happy and they were productive. I can't name the organisation, but let's just say they're doing very well.
I've been to similar ones actually, where very very huge corporation, in fact, which I won't mention. Their head offices have similar thing. They have basically kitchens on every level, which are very social, where people obviously sit around. Obviously, huge amount of money to fund it, but the staff are very happy.
Well, it's the payback in return. If they're eating healthily and they're looking after themselves and they're getting good nutrients, it's much better than having a pastry station and coffee or going there all the time. Much rather they were drinking water and eating. And
people are then more likely to perhaps come to work earlier, cook some food at work rather than obviously coming late and microwave something or whatever it may be. And as we've digressed a little bit, but I'm interested because, for me, and this isn't something I expect you to answer at all, Shan, but I've just been a big believer in myself. Microwaves are in, I would imagine, 95% of homes up and down the country. But I just don't think, logically, it doesn't seem a safe way to cook food. Generally speaking, you put a plastic container in a microwave and it goes round in a circle for 30 seconds or a few minutes and it's warm. It just doesn't, and you can't be cooking something properly that way. It just doesn't seem right to me.
And let's be honest, they don't taste great either.
No, they don't. No, they don't. They really don't. They taste awful. Especially those, is microwave food unsafe? Well, who knows? As Shan rightly says, you should perhaps be cooking, more traditional Primal way. And cooking things properly on a hob would be much more preferable. But certainly the foods you generally speaking do put in a microwave aren't that healthy. We can certainly agree on that, can't we?
Yes, we certainly can.
Moving on a little bit. This is a great question from Duncan in Southport, who says, how much water should I be drinking?
Yep, great question. My answer is simple. Unless you are medically advised otherwise, I'd recommend drinking between 2 and 3 litres of water every day, depending on your height and your weight, your overall size. And this is something that I'm really quite passionate about, to really encourage people to start drinking more water in terms of what it does for our overall health and well-being. The list of things that it can do for us really is endless. It's supporting our energy levels, our weight, our gut health, our circulation, our cognition, our performance, our cardiovascular health, and it's also, what a great way to save money. We think about all the money we spend on fruit juices and cordials and alcohol and soft drinks and even milk. Just have water. And it does so much more for you.
It's amazing that, people only consume so much, so many fizzy drinks and fruit juices and things like you say that are compressed and obviously not always from concentrate and not nice because they're thirsty. If they just drank more water, perhaps they'd be less inclined to drink things that are bad for them and, like you say, spend money.
Well, I challenge you to have a fizzy drink and see how thirsty you feel afterwards compared to having a glass of water. One of them will absolutely quench your thirst. The other one, you can actually still feel thirsty afterwards, believe it or not.
Well, sugar actually makes you feel thirsty, doesn't it? So if you're having sugary ones, that's there you go. There's something in that. I think it's a really good topic. It depends, like you rightly say, Shan, doesn't it? It depends on the individual. Like a 7-year-old girl would need more than me or you, for example, need less water than you or I, just simply because we're bigger organisms, aren't we?
You know what? I want to mention something that may well be controversial, but I'm going to talk about it anyway.
Okay.
I understand that Diabetes UK have recently formed a partnership with Britvic, who are the manufacturers of many sugar-containing drinks. And I feel this is absolutely abhorrent and shocking and appalling. Really, essentially creating an income from selling sugary drinks and putting that into attempting to support diabetes, and how incredibly prevalent diabetes is now becoming across society. So we can protest all day long, or we can decide not to consume their products. I'd much rather just drink water, and I highly recommend you do.
Shan, we don't mind a bit of controversy here at Primal Cure, and as you know, we're big supporters or big fans of Dr. David Unwin, who of course wrote the foreword to the Primal Cure, and he talks quite candidly about the fact that that in particular, for example, is just in touch what's wrong in corporate society in Britain, if you like.
Diabetes UK was founded by H.G. Wells, who was a very famous author and a futurist, and he predicted many things from his writing, from his works of fiction. I think even he was also a diabetes sufferer, and I think even he would be shocked to, would have struggled to predict what has actually happened to this organisation that he founded.
It's a shame. One of the things that that David Unwin talks about is that essentially, sugar is the devil. We believe here at Primal Cure that sugar is the devil. I personally believe that sugar would be looked at in the same way in 20 or a few decades time, in the same way that smoking is looked at essentially, and that it causes so many of the ailments today that cause people so much pain, discomfort and even death. We talked about heart disease, mental illness, diabetes being the big one, literally just directly related to a high sugar intake. We're big believers in the low carb diet, the primal diet as it were here. David Unwin we just talked about, who of course wrote the foreword to Primal Cure and backs it heavily. And you're right, messages like that are misleading, aren't they? When corporate entities, put that kind of those partnerships are struck. It's a shame, but at Primal Cure we're here to help. So, perhaps read the Primal Cure, join the Primal Cure movement, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Listen to my upcoming podcast, listen to Shan's podcast, which is available very soon. Read his book, The Big Prescription. All these things will put you in a better place to be able to fight these diseases and not become a sick statistic, if you like, as the Primal Cure tagline for the new book is. It's a fascinating topic, actually, just drinking water and just so relatable to so many health topics. Like you say, I think which links into the next question, which I'm not going to get to just yet, but there's a stat you talk about in our How to Avoid Flu show, which is very interesting, watch it, where Shan, you talk about drinking more water can reduce the risk of flu by, drinking a certain amount, or?
I forget the actual figure, but yes, it can reduce,
up to 50%, I think.
Reduce your chances of developing flu by keeping yourself well hydrated. That's right. And this comes back to what we spoke about earlier, how during the winter months we don't tend to keep ourselves well hydrated as when we're really hot.
Of course, you're really hot, so of course people you feel thirsty, so you drink loads of water. In the winter, you might not. I drink loads of water because I exercise so much. Because I exercise so much, I feel thirsty. I'm depleted, so therefore I drink loads of water and get loads on board. So I kind of have to do that way. But you're right. It's interesting, isn't it, that different times of the year your thirst can be. But anyway, water intake, high water intake, the right amount of water can vastly improve your health in a number of different ways.
Yeah, so just drink water and not Britvic.
Yeah. Delroy from Leicester says, how long does flu last? Good question, Delroy.
Ooh, yes.
The last question.
Variable. Depends on the individual. I've seen it last for a fortnight, and I've seen some people get over it in a couple of days. Not completely over it, but over it to the point where they feel that they have the ability to perform day to day. So it's very variable. It's down to the individual, and it's always difficult to predict exactly how long it will last for you, Delroy. So hopefully that is some way of answering your question. I'm sorry, I really can't be more precise without knowing a little bit more about you. But I think it's important to focus on what we can do to look after our own health and take the preventative measures that we talked about, which will also help our body to fight off the flu if we're experiencing it.
Absolutely. Things like that are obviously, these questions that we've answered today in today's show are so, they're so interesting. They might seem like basic questions to you guys at home. They certainly don't to me, because but Shan, we've talked about them, and just by talking about them in an open forum, we can get to, hopefully we can get to the bottom of quite a few of them. I've got a few questions for you now. That's okay. I'm going to ask the doctor myself. What more do you think? We talked a lot about mental health earlier, and this is, I'm going to go back to the question from Louisa in Llandudno. We talked about anxiety disorder. What more do you think, and this relates to that, the topic that you're so passionate about, the mental well-being and social health and all these things, and it's something that I'm just, hugely passionate about. I think is, even though it's becoming more talked about, still largely overlooked. What more do you think needs to be done from the medical community side of things to help people with mental illnesses and reduce the rate of mental illness in the UK?
I think keep talking, keep sharing the information. A good friend of mine is a consultant obstetrician. He's founded the International Forum for Wellbeing and Pregnancy. And his approach, what he does is, obviously a lot of the work he does is preventative to help avoid so many cases of postnatal depression and baby blues. And what he does is he basically gets in there early, sometimes preconceptual, but early in this sort of antenatal period, and gives advice just around diet, lifestyle, stress, sleep, rest. And patients take that on board, they listen, and they practice it, and they feel better. And he's noticed that he's actually started to reduce the incidence of mental health conditions around pregnancy and birth. And what's important is he's not done anything,
drastic.
Yeah, it's a lot of it, some people just dismiss it as common sense, but the point I want to make is the fact that he's a doctor, he's a consultant, and he's going in there saying it to people. They seem to listen a bit more than if the average person was to say it. And I think these kind of conversations need to continue from the medical community, talking to people about how we're eating, what we're drinking, how we're living, how we're thinking, who we're hanging out with, and what kind of influences we're taking, and how is this all showing up in our overall health.
This is what I love about talking to you, quite frankly, Shan. You're a friend of mine now, but also from a professional standpoint, it's so refreshing because you're so open-minded as a doctor. And I'll never forget quote to be by Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, who's the first person we interviewed here at Primal Cure, and is a fascinating man, absolute pioneer and expert in heart disease. With his book, The Great Cholesterol Con, you can buy it at www.primalcure.com, and he talks a lot about the truth about diet, etc. But one of the things he talks about, one of the quote he said to me was, doctors are not scientists. He says scientists want to know more, doctors want to know facts. Because of course when it comes to prescribing something, they want to know the facts behind something and all the rest of it. But is medicine changing? Because yourself, you are very open-minded, and it's very difficult to measure and quantify the things you just talked about. The social elements that make a difference. You can't see numbers and all the rest of it necessarily, but it can have a very prolonged period of time. It takes time, and it's not instantaneous. And there's obviously a willingness to learn on your part. Dr. David Unwin is another person who obviously, he said for years and years and years, practiced a certain way, encouraged a balanced diet, which he now believes is completely wrong. And now he encourages a low carb diet and basically encourages lifestyle medicine over prescribing people metformin and other things for diabetes. And the changes he's seen are dramatic. His clinic is much healthier. He sees better results. He's not prescribing medications. My point is it's all very refreshing. But in the medical community, is there still a little bit of resistance to applying lifestyle medication and doing the things like the person you just mentioned to there, employed or applied?
I think there
are people
is.
Still quick to just apply, give people drugs, medication?
I hope not. I can't speak for other doctors, but I think the ones that are, I don't want to call them prescription happy, but
no. I think prescription happy is a fair term. Come across plenty of them in my time. Obviously,
I think we've got a duty of care to our patients to do the best that we can without creating harm. And I'm sure Dr. Kendrick and Dr. Unwin, both of whom I respect greatly, would agree with that. We want to go with first, do no harm. What can we do to help you? What can you do to help yourself? And what steps can we put into practice? And let's talk about that before we reach for that prescription pad and start writing out medications. Interesting that Dr. Kendrick said that about the importance of knowing more versus knowing facts, because I've always felt I want to know more, and so long as there's an evidence basis behind it that I can see scientifically, and I can see literature and papers that have been proven in terms of research to support it.
It's interesting.
I want to share that.
From a personal note, I've had opposition myself, and for those of you who don't know, as a 2-time cancer survivor, I run a movement called Competing with Cancer, which I know you're familiar with. And the long-term aim of mine as a sportsman who's had cancer is to implement exercise structures for cancer patients as a form of, a form of treatment, alongside chemotherapy and radiotherapy, because I really believe it helps massively. We know that exercise reduces treatment time, it increases responses to drugs and everything else. So therefore, but my point is, I've experienced opposition from people because they say, well, where's the proof? Show me in writing, literally, how physiologically exercise helps somebody when they're having chemotherapy, radiotherapy, etc. But they don't take into account the mental aspect. It's huge. We know that the best form of it, the best drug, if you like, for somebody that's feeling down is exercise. If they do some exercise, they feel automatically feel better. Okay,
well, in terms of where's the proof, the answer I'll give is, if I showed you the proof, would you do it?
Yes.
And if the answer is yes, then that's great. And if the answer is no, then I say, well, why should I be your Google for you? You can find the proof out. There's if you go onto googlescholar.com, you've got access to so many different scientifically researched papers. That can give
and
you.
It's important, isn't it, that some doctors,
and
my point was that I've seen opposition from certain doctors in that field, oncologists, hematologists, etc., because they won't implement a full-scale program, because they want to see the facts like now in this country, but the facts might exist in America, but the study might not apply to the UK, for example. That's a bit of an issue, isn't it? That perhaps some things aren't always broadly accepted.
Yes. I think people can sometimes get a little bit too cynical when it comes to demanding such proof. We can't prove Einstein's theory of relativity. No one's proved it.
No, you're absolutely right.
It sounds really clever, but no one's proved it.
It's a theory.
It's a theory. It remains a theory, I think we need to remember that, and you also need to remember that Nikola Tesla completely trashed it as well.
Absolutely.
So
people are very quick, aren't they? To physical health is one thing, but they perhaps don't. Like we said, we can't measure your mental health.
Yeah.
You can, you know whether you broke a bone. You don't know whether you.
So what I would say to people is there is proof behind my work and your work and in this terrific book here. There is scientific literature to study it, to support it. But don't worry about that. Think about what you want for your health and what simple steps could you take to start to achieve it. And it doesn't have to be wholesale lifestyle changes across the board. Just keep it really simple. Drink more water, activity, 20 minutes walking a day, clean up your diet. That's it. Just do those 3 things and commit to that for 2 weeks and see how much better you'll feel. And let that be your proof. Let that be your evidence.
Shan, that's a fantastic close to the programme. You're absolutely right. Simple things. Focus on your diet, lifestyle, environment. The 3 key principles. The primal cure, basically, like Shan says. Create the right environment for yourself. Eat the right foods, the right vitamins, the right minerals. Make a start, read The Primal Cure. It's all in there. Read Dr. Shan's book, read the big prescription. There's enough people out there who want to help you live a good life, live the right life. Make a start, go online, buy the book.